going on, people? Welcome to United View. Welcome to another Flex's View. And today's Flex's View, I had to do one yesterday as well because of the Marcus Rashford news, but today's one is about Daniel Ashworth. Dan Ashworth fights back because that's exactly what he's doing in this saga between Manchester United and Newcastle United. Me and Owen spoke this morning at length with the accusations that had been labelled at Omar Barada and Dan Ashworth via the Mail, actually. And they were some big accusations, accusations of basically snitching on himself, letting us emails out the bag, being tapped up, Omar Barada operating off an Ineos account when he's not even shouldn't be working for them yet. All of that, all of the above, right? And now it's time that Dan Ashworth is pushing back on that. And he says that Newcastle actually sacked him. It's from Luke Edwards from The Telegraph. And he says Dan Ashworth is attempting to force Newcastle United to let him out of his lengthy garden leave early so that he can start work at Man United, and will argue that he was sacked from the club rather than resigning. It's all getting a bit messy now. Dan Ashworth believes his departure from Newcastle gives him grounds to argue the gardening leave is null and void as things were not handled correctly before his departure. In effect, his argument ahead of arbitration is that he was not asked to formally write down his resignation by the chief executive, Darren Eastland, and should not have been placed on garden leave until he did so. He will therefore argue he was removed from his position rather than asking to step down. So he's basically saying, you didn't actually let me resign. Yeah, in effect, his argument is that he was not asked to formally write down his resignation. So that's it. You didn't actually formally let me resign. You got rid of me. You placed me on garden leave without me physically signing to say I'm stepping down. So it's null and void. I tell you what, mate. He's saying he's out the job on a technicality. That's what he was saying, mate. He's saying that he's out the job on a technicality. Yeah, you are fools. You are the biggest fools in Newcastle. That's basically what he's trying to say. Because he's pushing back saying, don't worry about all of this like email stuff and all that. Mate, I shouldn't even be on gardening leave this long. I didn't even resign. You sacked me. So that makes the gardening leave null and void. Now, of course, I don't know whether that's true or not, but I know it's damn interesting that we're now getting both sides of it. From the Mail, it was the Newcastle correspondent. I can't remember his name. Is it David Hope? That's in my name. That's in my head for some reason. But the guy from the Mail is the Newcastle correspondent. So that gave it from sort of their side. Now what we're seeing from the Telegraph, I don't know whether Dan Ashworth has leaked this information or done an interview with Luke Edwards. But he's the one saying that, they're in the wrong. And Dan Ashworth is trying to force an early arrival at United by saying that he was actually sacked. I didn't resign. So if I didn't resign, the whole thing of my gardening leave is not that. So look, at the end of the day, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. It really is. And there's a lot of sort of infighting, outfighting, public, private stuff going on. And when I did see the things this morning, I was like, hang on a minute. If that really is the case, right, with Dan Ashworth and Omar Barada really doing that, they may as well not even turn up to the arbitration hearing or the arbitration decision, because they've done so much wrong. They're going to get laughed out of the building. That's how I saw it. That's why I was like, surely that can't be true, because if that is, they're finished. You know what I mean? And it will be typical of Man United or the people that are coming in to try and change Man United to get it wrong. That's just our luck. But then when you see this as an exclusive from the Telegraph, I'm not saying now this has happened, it means that that's true, but it just shows that there's both sides just fighting in this. And I still think what we will get from this is, I was going to say amicable solution. I know that seems a little bit of a way off, but I still think we'll get some sort of solution. It also says, Luke Edwards also goes on to say that Newcastle are said to be astounded by the attempt to get out of his contracted gardening leave, and will contest that arbitration. So again, they're insisting, it says here, they have every right to prevent Ashworth starting work at Man United until late 2025 unless compensation can be agreed. So in the same article, not only is Dan Ashworth accusing them of lying and saying, I didn't resign, you sacked me, they're also pushing back, according to Luke Edwards, and saying, nah, mate, what are you talking about? We're astounded that you're even trying to get out of this gardening leave. And furthermore, we've got the grounds to back this up. So unless they pay what is right or what we deem is right, acceptable compensation, you're not going anywhere until late 2025, which clearly does not help anyone. Definitely doesn't help Man United anyway. Newcastle will seek a meeting. This is what is interesting though. Luke Edwards does go on to say that Newcastle will seek a meeting with Man United before the start of arbitration hearing to try and force them to increase their compensation offer for Dan Ashworth. And as we've seen, that seems to be something that Sir Jim, he's just not on that. He's just not on doing that at all. He's called it silly or stupid and said that, you know, he's out there cutting hedges. How many hedges more can he cut? How many more hedges can he, how much more gardening could he do? So it really is a messy situation, and you just don't really know how much this is going to go on for. Because at the end of the day, we need him in place. We've got work to be done. You know, we got targets we want to get. We got things we need to be doing. And the problem is that the longer this takes, the longer it scuppers our plans. Now, also, the game of chess is back to Newcastle's way. They are currently operating without Dan Ashworth and have been for some time. I think his role was sporting director there or whatever it was, whatever the exact role he has there, which was quite significant. They're operating without that. And their plans are scuppered, and they also want to get someone over the line. I know we've seen sort of Dougie Friedman mentioned for them and some others maybe, but the longer it goes without someone in place for them is also something that doesn't bode well for them. So both teams are unhappy. Both clubs are unhappy. Dan Ashworth's unhappy. The owners are unhappy on both sides. So it's just an absolute mess. I just hope there's a resolution very, very quickly. But Dan Ashworth does need to be careful though, because what we don't want to do is risk pushing too hard, breaking rules, and all of a sudden then he can't come to Man United for ages. It's not going to help. It's not going to help us at all. And this Omar Barada situation, I hope he don't get done for that as well, by the way, with the email thing, because that would be stupid. But, you know, the window's fast upon us. It's the end of the season now. And with or without Dan Ashworth, Ineos need to make sure that they have a plan. If they don't, we're going to be in trouble. And I'm not suggesting that they don't. They would have known that this would have been quite difficult, and clearly they've known for some time. But, you know, also, how much do we even have to throw at this? How much compensation can we even afford for Dan Ashworth? Do we need to fall back at some point and be like, we can't do it? So there you go. It's not a great situation. In fact, it's a shit situation. But it's an absolute slanging contest. There's people from both sides saying different things. The media's going wild. You don't know what to believe. But all we do know right now is that there is still no agreement. And I'm going to do my digging as well. I'm going to try and speak to some of the guys who are close to this, try and get Keith Downey back on the channel again and see what's going on from there. Smash the like on the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel.